Server from 17 once again. This is my Devil May Cry 4 Triple S rank Dante Must Die walkthrough. This is mission 6, and once again I do not know the name of it, but it will be in the title, so I'm sure you do. This is one of those missions where I had to play it more times than I ever wanted to play it, because I personally think it's a piece of shit. And a lot of people who are a fan of this game get kind of defensive when, you know, you say that their game is a piece of shit in parts. But I've always felt this, and I mean, it begins right now. You're up against an enemy whom I don't know the name of, and I don't really care of the name of them because they show up so infrequently that they're completely worthless, pointless, and stupid to fight. On the one side, I like the fact they exist, because it's diverse, it's a completely different type of enemy to fight, and if you fought them a little bit more frequently, I probably wouldn't dislike them as much as I do. But it begins with a fight that can be very annoying and frustrating if you don't know how to fight them. The way I fight them is I use a fully charged shot to knock them out of the ground, I busted them out of the air, and then I continue to just like beat them up like you do everything in the game. But this level gets worse. And it gets worse in big ways. Because it introduces you to the reoccurring game mechanic of knocking a dice to traverse a Mario Party-esque sequence of tiles. And once you play this game, you know, on your first time, this is something interesting. It spreads up the gameplay, you know, it diversifies what you're doing a little bit. It has you doing something different to what you've been doing so far, and it's a welcome addition. But when you've played this level hundreds of times, and when you're coming back to do it for rank, and you're not particularly that very good at the game anymore, it just becomes a fucking nightmare because it's a stopgap in between the previous fight and then the next one. And I had to do this level, I think about 6 times, because I couldn't get the orb requirement, because I kept missing a hidden orb cache that I just completely forgot was there. So I ended up doing this dice game a lot, and I don't want to. You know, I don't want to watch the dice move. I don't want to watch the part move on the board. I don't want to ever do this. And like Castlevania Lords of Shadow is a game, if you watch my walkthrough for it, I was incredibly harsh towards that game because there was parts of it that I thought were horrendously designed. I thought if they were different or somehow improved or refined, then that game could have been truly amazing. But the sheer amount of things that bugged me with it made it that it was just an average game to me because of the problems. But one of the things that game I think did beautifully is the puzzles, because almost every puzzle on that game could be skipped on subsequent playthroughs. You just didn't get the bonus for doing them. And I think that's an amazing idea, because nobody wants to hit a fucking dice around a pointless room that you'll be skipping anyway if you're going for rank, because there's no point fighting any of the stuff it makes you fight. It's just worthless. And I think I'd be more forgiving of it if it didn't crop up again later on and ruin my favourite level in the game. Which, you know, it's just, it is what it is, and it's one of those things that I'd forgotten just how much I really disliked it. And it stems from this. So this is the very first Agnes boss you'll do, and it's not really Agnes, it's a window, and it's that boss fight that a lot of people, until you learn how to do it, and even when you know what you're doing, it's not very fun. You have to throw the swords at the window or attack the window, and there's going to be environmental hazards, and the gladiuses are going to fly at you, and a bunch of other stuff like that. And the thing you want to do is you want to throw the swords at the window, you want to shoot the swords that are coming near you, or jump, or get your iframes, or do whatever you like to do to avoid them. Sometimes it can be tricky, as I'm showing you here, because I'm just not very good at this fight. But the lock-on of the Buster and the range of the Buster just don't complement this fight at all. Because how I think it should work in an ideal situation would be, when you buster something in this room, you should always grab something. You shouldn't miss, you shouldn't be out of range, it should be a case of you grab the things, you know? And there's multiple ways of fixing it. You don't have to change the range on it, you don't have to change anything to do with how it works. You could have the gladiuses fly closer to you, instead of constantly being out of range. And yeah, I think it'd streamline a boss that shouldn't exist, because if this was Agnes in the form you fight him later on, I'd have no problem with that. Because that fight, as annoying as it can be, is at least a fight. But this is that level that I've always immensely disliked, because it has you fighting a window in a room with one of the most frustrating enemies on the game, and a setup where the environment is against you. And you're either going to like it or you're not, and I'm one of the people that hates it, and I've always hated it. And I always wondered if it'd get easier when you had more abilities, like if you could do some of the special moves to break the window faster, but it just never seems to work that way. But the cool thing is, the style requirement on this level is not that high. The time requirements, you'll probably never fail on time, because it gives you so much time to do everything. The only thing that will happen is you'll either die on this fight because of just the setup of it and sloppy play, which is the things that killed me if I ever died here back when I used to play, or you'll not find all the orbs, which is the thing that I did. So I ended up fighting this particular enemy and doing that dice a lot more than I would have liked. And there's a few levels where this happened on this particular rank walkthrough, and they made me really dislike those levels. And it wasn't because they're bad levels, it wasn't really because they're all that terrible in the grand scheme of things. It's just that right now, playing this game, replaying levels when I fail on a technicality, which is essentially you didn't find the things that you have to break, which are something that you can either commit to memory or you can look up online and do, which take no skill to do, just bums me out on playing, really. And it made me want to not play. And I know that's not a fault of the game, that's entirely me. But what it did is it highlighted this notion when I was playing, when I was recording this, that I wasn't really enjoying it. And I was thinking to myself, well, why would that be? You know, Devil May Cry 4 is regarded as one of the good Devil May Crys, and I would wholeheartedly agree with that. I think this game's fantastic. I think it did a lot of things really well. But times have changed, and my tastes have changed. You know, I used to be this massive Devil May Cry guy. I haven't really played Devil May Cry for a long time now. This is... I never remember the names of it. This is one of the Angelos, and he's the dude who can command his fellow angel people. He's an interesting guy to fight. The easiest way to beat him is what I did just then. If you activate Devil Trigger, you can knock him into the air, and then from there you can chain grab him with the Buster. It's not the most interesting thing to watch, it's not the most stylish thing to do, but it's effective, and this guide is going to be full of effective strategies and rusty play. But here are the dudes he was with. One of the options you can do here, if you want to get a nice style boost and skip this fight completely, is you can wait for him to have two of the other Angelos and then do the orb move, which is significantly easier to knock back as Nero than it is as Dante, I've found out. But the thing you need to bear in mind is if he doesn't have two of them, he'll never do it. It has to be three people for it to work. It can be more than that, but it can't be less. And sometimes the AI can get really stubborn where it just doesn't want to do it, which is one of those things where it's really frustrating as a player, but sometimes it incentivizes you to fight them, you know, the old-fashioned way. Which is to say, the best way to fight this enemy is either to break its shield if you're skilled, or to get behind it if you want a slightly quicker and easier method. A couple of things to bear in mind though. It has this counter jump move that it does every so often that will catch you off guard if you don't know what to look for. Whenever you jump directly across from it when it's in attack pattern, its lance goes directly above it and it's very fast, so if you've already jumped, you're probably already about to be hit. Ways around this are to run around it as opposed to jumping, and then when he tries to attack you just jump. That's the cash I kept missing, by the way, folks. Make sure you remember that, very important. It's literally worth about 6%, maybe more. But just be aware, you know, jumping over them does work. You'll see me do it a lot, but you'll also see me get caught for doing it, because they can counter it. If you attack them, they'll counter. You can break the shield by bustering it, by doing attacks on it, but be aware, every so often they'll riposte you, and if you get caught, it's not very fun. But I think for the most, they're a very fun enemy to fight. If they don't have the shield up, and if you don't have them on camera, you can pretty much do what you want with them, and I'm not really showing you a very good example of that, but what can I say? The one thing you should take from these videos is if I can come along, having not played this game for several years, and get these ranks, somebody using these videos for motivation, you'll be able to fly. You'll hopefully you'll be sharp, you've played through all the other difficulties getting the S ranks, and you're just having trouble on Dante Must Die because the jumping difficulties, you know, getting to you or something like that. But you have to smash the stuff, and if you're just going for straight up S ranks, you should be fine. Because I never got an A in the entire recording process of this. I always got S's. And it just goes to show that the ranking on this game, and this game in general, is considerably simpler than the previous ones. Because Devil May Cry 1, if you didn't know what you were doing, there is no way in hell were you getting S ranks on some levels first try, because they involved learning bosses, and some of those bosses are insanely tricky to learn. Devil May Cry 3, that is arguably one of the hardest games that exists for rank, in my opinion. Especially in the action genre, because you look at other games like God Hand, the rank on that is all about getting, I suppose, the system up to level die, and then keeping it at level die, and maybe not dying at all and getting a nice score at the end. Not really much of a ranking system, more of rewarding good play, which I think is cool. Then you have things like your God of Wars, don't really have any kind of rank. You know, you have the hit counter, but the hit counter just gets you more orbs. It's never really played into it too much. Ninja Gaiden has always been about UTs, chaining UTs to get karma, and getting Master Ninja at the end of those levels is really simple as long as you did a lot of UTs. So I wouldn't really count that unless you're super high-end, you know, Ninja Gaiden 1 player who's karma running. I'm trying to think of any other ones that have got... Apparently, Shinobi is incredibly difficult to rank on, so maybe that's harder. But I wouldn't know because I only ever played that when it came out and I hated it. But if you're looking for a playthrough of that, there's a guy called XHL Gladiator who might as well be Jesus when it comes to doing really insane gameplay. He has a no damage, S rank, hard difficulty Shinobi playthrough, which is pretty much the hardest thing you can do on that game. And if anybody's played that game, you'll understand just how fucking crazy hard that is. Right there, that I don't understand. Sometimes when you go to those hidden orb caches, they just don't register. Like, you stand still, sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. You move, sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. It's kind of strange. Never really understood it too much. But the rank in this game is so simple compared to the old ones. Like, even Devil May Cry 2. Ranking in Devil May Cry 2 is hard, guys. If you've ever played it, sure, the game is bad and all that good stuff, but ranking in it is hard because you kill the enemies so quickly and they're so uninteresting to fight, but at the same time, you can cheese the rank in that game because it never deteriorates the points per attack. So you can just keep on stingering, and the stinger gives you the same amount of score every time, so you just gradually go through the ranks repeating the same move. And if you didn't realise by the noise of my voice, I am in fact repeating the same hand gesture as if I was playing that game. I'm thrusting my little fist like that. Yeah, yeah. But whenever you go to this area of Castle Fortuna, there's always going to be a frost fight. And I've already mentioned that I'm incredibly shit at fighting frosts when I've come back to this game. You ought to see me when I play as Dante. That was hilarious. Oh my goodness. So, if you've never seen this game before or you've never played it and you're curious, there's two characters you play in Devil May Cry 4. You play as Nero, who's kind of the new cocky kid who controls a very grab-heavy, you know, singular attack, a diverse amount of moves, and an interesting character, but he's kind of like Kratos. That's what I would compare him to. He has this iconic moveset and weapon and functionality, which is very grab-happy, very, you know, certain sword attacks, and then the rev system is what makes the sword attacks more interesting. And I compare him to Kratos because Kratos grabs everything and just destroys them. See that, guys? I've already mentioned that earlier on. That winds me up, that does. So if you don't know what happened, I accidentally pressed B to grab the frost and I opened the door. It now resets both the frosts back to full life as if the fight had never happened. The good thing here, aside from getting hit by a frost off screen, which is always frustrating, is I get to get more stylish points. So if you're ever having problems with style points, you can come back and refight the enemies you like fighting. For instance, there's a couple of rooms in this castle that let you fight scarecrows and the mega scarecrows. Fight those guys all day because they're really fun to fight. The frosts, you know, once you learn the tells and you know how to control them, they're actually really fun to fight, and I'm kind of getting better, as you can see here. I'm keeping them on camera, I'm keeping them stunned, I'm charging my gun, I'm getting out of the way of their attacks. That was a much better encounter right there, even though I did get bummed earlier. And I'm being careful here because I don't want to grab him because of the door. It's just, I think it's signs of the game's age with the way the door's working. Like on the Saviour fight, I recorded the Saviour fight the other day, and I had a lot of trouble with it because there's these platforms you have to actually jump on rather than run onto. And if you could run onto them, I'd never miss them. But there are times when I go to do a jump and I get hit because the Saviour does his big smack. And I was expecting to have the invulnerability of the bounce, and I didn't get there in time. And it's little things like that that really irritate me. But what was I talking about? Talking about rank, wasn't I? Yeah, ranking on this game, if you're good at revving, you'll be fine, because revving with Nero gives you so many style points, it's insane. If you map your gun to a trigger so you can always be charging it, you should be fine. If you're good with the Buster, you should be fine. The time, once again, you've always got so much time. The only level that's difficult for time, I would say, is the final fight against Sanctus, because Sanctus is a giant coward and all he does is run away from you. That's the only one I ever had problems getting the time requirement on. Style points differ from player to player. And Orbs are my big kryptonite. Orbs are the thing that make me not really enjoy this game too much. Because I set out to do, you know, the SSS rank, and it turns out that the Orb requirement, unless you know what you're missing, gets tedious quickly. But here come a couple more Frosts. Let's see what I do. So I launch him, and then I'm in a grab. You'll notice how his buddy's not attacking me. That's because he didn't start an attack. That will only happen as long as he's neutral. If he starts attacking as you grab, he'll beat you up. You need to be aware of this, and you can't rely on it because it's a very dangerous thing. As soon as they start blocking, you want to try and buster them or use Devil Trigger. Right there, I charged that attack, which I really like, but always misses. And I did another throw. For those that aren't aware, the Air Buster and the Ground Buster actually count as two different types of throw, so they will give you more style points each time you do them. The more you do a move, the less style points I think you get. I assume it's got that overall degradation of point reward. But now that those guys are down, we can run towards the exit, and at this point I'm hoping I've got the stylish requirements now that I've killed those 2 extra sets of Frosts. I'm more than comfortable with time, and I'm just praying that the Orbs don't screw me, because that's pretty much this, you know, the swan song of this entire walkthrough, the Orbs. And what I recommend for people who don't know where they are, who don't want to waste time like I did, there's a fantastic game fact that is, if you Google Devil May Cry 4 100% Red Orbs, somebody's listed it on the boards of GameFAQs, and they tell you what is in each room and where they are and what you have to break. And there's probably a video that's like an accompaniment to it, but I didn't see that, and that's what I used whenever I did a level 3 or 4 times and I got to the point where I'm like, I'm gonna fucking cancel this guide because this is bullshit. I don't want to play this shitty level again. But there you go, 100% Orbs. That's, you know, how much it was bumming me that level. I actually found all of them. But thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoy that mission more than I do, because I'm sure there's somebody out there that really likes it, and I'm happy for them. But yeah, you take care now.